To me, Xavi Hernandez has unfinished business at Barcelona because the way that Barcelona have gone out from the Champions League this season, I know that it does not sit well with him and many Barcelona fans. I believe that Xavi Hernandez can do so much more with this squad and do so much more in all competitive competitions. Xavi Hernandez says something after the match was over between PSG and FC Barcelona, and this is what he said, and I quote, "We have to keep trying. We are facing PSG. They never won the Champions League and they have spent so much money on signings. It took City 7 years to win the Champions League. Next year, we'll compete again." And so you can just get that feeling, right, that Xavi Hernandez wants to avenge what happened in this Champions League campaign. I know that the whole story is that Xavi Hernandez is going to be leaving, right, because he is simply just too tired, it's too much pressure. He does want to take a step down. And the main reason why is because he believed that he is doing much more harm than good. But I'm going to be very honest here. With the way that Barcelona have been going up in the past 2 or 3 months and how Barcelona lost in this Champions League campaign, could the defeat maybe change Xavi's mind? Because I do think that this game against PSG, this loss was a fluke. And PSG did in some way get very lucky with the fact that Araujo chose to get himself a red card. And I find it fascinating to know that Xavi Hernandez is speaking in a way where he's acting like he wants to continue and also saying that I will be back next season to avenge what happened, to win many trophies with FC Barcelona. If I were Xavi Hernandez at the very least, I would want another season. There is no way I would make this my last season knowing that we got knocked out because of the small details. And Xavi Hernandez was really blaming the refs through this game. Not once did Xavi Hernandez, during the press conference, put down any of his players. Yes, Araujo made a mistake, but overall, he never once put down his players. He did not say that there was no intensity, no organization, that Barcelona were slow. He never said any of those things. And this was something very common 3 months ago. Like Xavi Hernandez, like he was being real with the press and also with the squad. When Barcelona played bad, he constantly made a lot of self-criticism against the players and against himself. Like if Barcelona play bad, Xavi Hernandez will call it out. But here it is different. He never said anything bad about how Barcelona played and really aimed for the refs. This is what Xavi had to say about the refs. "I am angry because I think that the play marks the tie. On the 11 against 11, we were well organized. The play marks the tie completely. For me, it is too much to whistle red in this play. And from then on, it is another game. I told the referee that he was very bad, that he was a disaster, and he does not understand football. It killed the tie. It changes everything. I don't like to talk about the referees, but we have to say it. We can't stay silent. Barcelona will try again. We have had a very worthy Champions League. Remarkable, I would even say." So again, I do think that Xavi Hernandez will announce that he will continue. Now, just for a reminder, right, I've always said that if Xavi Hernandez simply wants to leave because of family issues, because he believes that there's a lot of family disturbance and that he's not seeing his family a lot, then that's going to be okay. That's fine. I will step out from that conversation. I'm not going to be saying anything about that because we know that family is first over anything. But if it's just plainly about football, a comeback is needed and it needs to happen. I can't stress this enough. I do think that Barcelona only need one more summer where we do make good signings to really solidify Xavi's team. I don't think that this summer we'll end up having a very complete, dominant team, but it would be much more solidified. So now that I do have that out the way, this is what's going to lead me to the next conversation. How should Xavi build his squad for the 2024-2025 season? Point number 1, make room for a CDM. Barcelona had to tweak so many things in order to combat the absence of not having a CDM against PSG. Barcelona had all of their players back. We let the opposition have more possession than us, and that is because, again, we lacked a pivot. We had a midfield of Pedri, Gundogan, and Frankie. It's very fragile when Barcelona don't have the ball, and I do believe that next season Barcelona is going to want control, to have more possession of the ball, to have a pivot in the middle of the pitch, to have the central midfielders play with much more freedom. So a CDM must be signed, and that CDM better be very technical, very good in positioning. And I'm going to be honest here, I think that the type of CDM that we should be signing should be coming from Spain. I know that this does bother a lot of people here. Many have been saying that, Kevin, you're just choosing favoritism, you just only like Spanish players. No, I'm only saying this because usually when we do bring a Spanish player, especially from the midfield, they know the players already, like the majority of the squad, they know them already. And also there's not going to be any language barrier. And so in result, you get a player that will gel in fast within the starting 11. Now you may say, but Kevin, okay, with that type of approach, then why is Oriol Romeu not playing well with Barcelona? He knows all of the players. He's Spanish. He used to play at Barcelona, and I get it. I understand. But this does not imply to all Spanish players. Like, you also have to have some good level. There's a reason why Oriol Romeu left 10 to 11 years ago. It's because he was not good enough. So when I say that we do need to sign a Spanish player preferably, I'm not saying that all Spanish players have the capacity to play at Barcelona. The type of Spanish player that we have to sign is somebody who is up and coming and very good technically. And the only player that I can think about is Zubimendi, who only cost 50 million euros. Now, you may say, but Kevin, yeah, Zubimendi is okay, but someone like Amadou Onana would be much better. And I agree with you. I think that Amadou Onana is much more, I would say, defensive, more physical. He can win the 1v1 defensive duels. But Everton have been asking for 70 million euros for the player. 70 million euros is a lot of money. Zubimendi will be 50 million euros. I think that Zubimendi is much more affordable. He has more experience in La Liga. He's 25 years old, so he has a lot of room to improve. And he has already played with Xavi, Pedri, and Balde, so he will gel in with ease. Now, Barcelona is not going to be the only one asking for Zubimendi. There has been multiple sources coming from Germany stating that Bayern Munich and the people who are in charge are in agreement that there is definitely a need to strengthen the position of the DM spot. Martin Zubimendi and Amadou Onana, two options that Barcelona are also looking at, are among the candidates, both of whom would cost high transfer fees. Bayern would be willing to sell one of the current midfielders to raise funds. And so this is where it does get very scary, right? Because you can already see what could happen, what possibilities could take place in the summer. Bayern could sell Kimmich to FC Barcelona to make room for Zubimendi. And to me, I see Barcelona gaining the very least in this whole operation, right? This huge operation that will affect many players and many teams. Bayern would be able to rejuvenate their squad by signing Zubimendi, and they will let go of a pivot that sometimes plays as a right back. Bayern will be gaining a DM, right? A pivot that devotes himself to that position. Barcelona would be getting somebody that's 29 years old, a CDM, right? But again, also plays in the right back position. Kimmich is also going to be asking for a higher wage, and at 29 years old, like I understand that, you know, when you're 28, 29, 30, 31 years old, your wages do increase. Very similar to like Gundogan or Lewandowski. They have one of the highest wages at Barcelona, but still, like, I would not want that. I want to bring somebody in the summer that is young, Zubimendi, right? Devotes himself to one position, again, Zubimendi, and is going to be asking for a lower wage, around the 7 to 9 million euro a year mark. Zubimendi does check all those boxes. And if we can get that chance to form a midfield that has Zubimendi, Pedri, and Xavi, that would be like the very best thing that you can do for this summer. You'll have a very technical midfield, very Spaniard, and a lot of defensive presence. You can form a double pivot when we are playing out from the back. Xavi has already shown that he's capable to play as a CDM. So I do think that Zubimendi and Xavi can form a double pivot with Pedri being a number 8. This is one of the ways Xavi Hernandez has been able to successfully play out from the back, is by having a 3-2-5 type of formation with Frankie and Christensen in the double pivot positions. But in the next season, we can have Zubimendi and Xavi, with Pedri being the highest one. And then of course you can have either Gundogan go in as a number 8 or Pedri. It really doesn't matter. But the most important thing is to have a very defensive midfield with Zubimendi and Xavi. Point number 2 on what I believe Barcelona should do is to promote Mikayil Faye into the first team and to strengthen our back line. Most importantly, one thing is for sure, Faye looks ready to me. He could have had a chance to play against Cadiz, but because of how close the game was, Faye never got in. Next season though, I do expect him to play many games. And let me tell you, the fact that Barcelona overall will be playing many games, right? With the amount of competitions that are going to take place, players like Araujo and Koundé are bound to get injured. I know that sounds very negative for me to say, but like at the end of the day, like what player does not get injured? Everybody gets injured. Koundé eventually will get injured. Araujo eventually will get injured. Gundogan eventually will get injured. And a good replacement for Araujo or Koundé or maybe even Kubarsi, right, is Mikayil Faye. Faye is someone very technical, has huge passing range. He can score goals. He's tall. He's physical. And again, I would even argue that Faye can help Kubarsi, because right now Kubarsi, with the amount of minutes that he has been playing, he has already been playing so much. And I understand, right, because Kubarsi does seem very untouchable, and that is because he is unreplaceable. There is no player in our squad right now that can take his position. But if you incorporate Faye and you have him understand what it's like to play in the first team, he can be a very strong competitor, and those two players can rotate. So out of all areas within the team, the defense is the most important. We need to have a very technical backline, healthy, with a lot of backup options. So we have to let go of players like Inigo Martinez, Marcos Alonso, introduce Christensen back into the CB spot, which is the center back position, right? Because we're going to be having Zubimendi, Xavi, Gundogan, Pedri, maybe even Frankie de Jong. We'll talk about Frankie de Jong in a different video. So incorporate Christensen back into the defense. Hector Ford can go back into the right back position. And I would even say, let's introduce Mamadou Mbappe and have him floating within the Barcelona Athletic and the first team here and there. He joined back on August 2023. He's currently on loan from LAFC. There is a purchase option for 7 million euros. He's a 21-year-old Senegal center back. Within a span of 21 games, he already has 2 goals and 1 assist. That's very impressive, because you know how we talk about how Faye scores a lot of goals? He only has 1 less goal contribution than Faye. Like, isn't that insane? So in the end, I would like to see something like this. We have Cancelo, Kubarsi, Araujo, and Koundé as our main main and most strongest back line, with our backup options being Balde for Cancelo, Faye for Kubarsi, Christensen for Araujo, and Hector Ford for Jules Koundé. And then you have Mbappe floating around the first team and the second team. He can take the place of Araujo, maybe Kubarsi, or take the place of Christensen if he ever does get injured. On my last point, which will be point number 3, Vitor Roque. Clearly, Xavi Hernandez had no plans to really make Vitor Roque part of the team this season. In these last 4 to 5 months, Vitor Roque has not played no more than past like 200 minutes. He has played very little. The situation that is going on with Vitor Roque is very similar to the one of Guler. But the reason why Vitor Roque has not been able to play, it is because he needs to understand how the football in Barcelona should be played. In the past few games that I have seen him in, he does look lost, I'm not going to lie. Like the positioning that he has and the type of education he has in positioning is not so good. Xavi Hernandez even called this out. And he has Vitor Roque looking at many videos and stuff like that. Like he needs to know where, when, how to move to create space for either themselves or for their teammates. I also do think that he needs to strengthen himself, like gain more muscle mass to go on a 1v1 when he has the ball against other center backs. He needs better link up play, and his first touch also needs to be much better. There's a lot of things that Vitor Roque has to improve on. I think that he has a goal. Obviously, when you pass the ball to him and he's inside the box, he can score you goals. But in everything else, and especially when you play at a team like Barcelona, you need to have many more qualities. You need to aim to go for the level of Luis Suarez. You may not reach that, but aim for it. Look at what Luis Suarez did that made him so successful at Barcelona. It was his link up play. It was for him to like run into different areas to create space for your teammates. So next season, I would really like to see Vitor Roque like really grasp these concepts and to really become a more prominent number 9 for us, because we need a number 9 that has much more athleticism, has the ability to pressure more, because Lewandowski from a physical standpoint is dropping lower and lower. He's still good enough especially right to score goals, but overall we would like to have a number 9 that we can rely on that can press the opposition. Basically have a Rafinha but in the number 9 spot. Really think about that, right? Because I remember looking at the match between Barcelona and PSG and the way that Barcelona pressed PSG and their back line. It was so easy to press. They got very nervous and they misplaced so many passes from the back, and I'm like, dude, can you imagine if we have Vitor Roque in the number 9 position with Rafinha and Lamine Yamal? Things would have turned out much differently. But the only thing that makes Lewandowski separate himself from Vitor Roque is like everything. It's basically everything. The goals, the way that he moves, the link up play. And so I think that Vitor Roque has to give much more, and we should incorporate Vitor Roque in the next season. And by doing that, we need to have a lot of training going on during the preseason. And so that is it. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.